I've been best friends with Becca since 2010. We were college roommates, and then after we graduated, we still lived together up until I moved in with my boyfriend Nate in 2019. One thing about Becca is that she's always had a drinking problem for as long as I've known her, and she's done stuff while drunk that has sometimes caused problems in our friendship. She does try to stay sober, but every few years something will happen to make her start drinking again, which is what happened earlier this summer. So last Saturday, Becca called me because she was drunk somewhere and needed a ride home. I couldn't go pick her up because I had the flu and I was on cold medicine, so Nate went to get her instead. A couple of days after that, I started noticing that Nate was being weird with his phone. Normally, he leaves it out on the coffee table if we're watching TV or whatever, but he started putting it face down so I couldn't see what notifications he was getting. My first thought was that he was trying to plan a surprise, and because of the timing, I thought that maybe Becca was helping him. Yesterday I saw Becca, and I told her that Nate was being sneaky all of a sudden, and asked her if he said anything about maybe proposing soon. She asked me if I looked through his phone, and I said no. Becca started crying and told me that she and Nate hooked up in his car the night that he came to pick her up. Her excuse was that she was really drunk and didn't fully know what she was doing. She said she'd been texting him since, telling him that he needed to tell me what happened or else she was going to. I asked Becca to show me the texts, but they were all in the app Signal, which deletes messages after a day. So all I could see was that she and Nate had a chat thread, but nothing that they said. I told her to text Nate in front of me so I could see what he said, and she did, but we got no read receipt and no response at all, so it didn't prove anything. I asked Becca if she was sure she wasn't so drunk that she maybe imagined it or thought a dream was real, and she absolutely lost her shoot on me. She said that she knows that she's horrible when she drinks, but that she's not delusional and doesn't make shoot up. She said that I could believe her or not, and it's my choice, but she was telling me the truth. I said I needed to go home and talk to Nate. So when I got home, I confronted Nate with what Becca had said, and he acted shocked and denied that anything like that had happened at all. He said he didn't know why she'd think so or say so. He said that he had just given Becca a ride home, and the only thing that happened was that they talked about how he and I had been together for a long time and how we should get married already. He admitted they were talking on Signal the next couple of days, but he said that it was about exactly what I thought, that he was asking her about engagement rings and what kind of proposal I would want. Nate replied to Becca's message from before, asking her if she made up a story about them hooking up to not ruin the surprise about his proposal, and she texted him back that there was no proposal and to stop playing dumb. So then, Nate called her, pretending like I wasn't in the room, and told her that she needed to stop whatever she was trying to do because we were on the verge of breaking up, and he'd rather just have the surprise be ruined. But Becca just kept telling Nate to stop lying until he got angry and hung up on her. I really didn't know what to think, and I still don't. Right now, Nate is really upset and not really talking to me much. He says that it's bad enough that Becca acted insane and ruined his plan to propose, but it's even worse that I believed her lies even a little and would think that he would ever cheat on me. Becca texted me saying she was sorry, but otherwise I haven't talked to her either. I don't want to think that Nate would cheat on me or that he'd take advantage of Becca if she was that drunk, but I feel like I can't be 100% sure because I've known Becca for 13 years. And I also just can't believe that she'd lie to me about something this important. And I know that she does have a drinking problem, so I can believe that she'd sleep with my boyfriend if she was drunk out of her head. She's done some pretty awful things in the past when she's been drunk. I don't want to wrongly accuse Nate of something he didn't do, but I don't want to be an idiot. Now for a few important comments. Someone asked if Signal automatically deletes messages unless you turn that feature on. It's not the automatic default, but if Nate created the chat with Becca and set it for messages to disappear after 24 hours, then all of her messages with him will do that without input from her. Someone asks what OP wants help with, sleuthing ideas, who is more believable, revenge, etc. I think what I initially wanted was just a sounding board for who sounded more believable. But someone gave me the tip that you actually can recover messages from Signal. So when I have a chance later tonight, I'm going to try to do that to see if I can get some actual proof of what happened. But so far, I haven't talked to anyone else about this, though. I really just don't want to spread around what didn't happen to the rest of friends or family without actually knowing for sure. Someone asked what else Becca has done to OP while drunk. So in the past, when she's been drunk, Becca's blacked out and started fights with me or other people. She'll say really out of line, insulting things. She's kicked people out of our apartment because she didn't remember inviting them in. She's accused me of stealing clothes from her because I was wearing an outfit that looked like something that she also owned. That kind of thing. She's never hooked up with anyone that I was dating, but she's definitely hooked up with guys that she knew I was interested in. Someone asked who has the greater motivation to lie here, Nate or Becca. Becca did have a big problem with Nate when we first got together, and she was really upset when I moved out of our apartment to move in with him. I could see her still being angry about it or still not liking him, but just not saying anything. From what Nate said, they weren't making the plans on Saturday, but Becca brought up that it's been 7 years and asked why we're not married yet. And then the day after, he asked her about rings. Someone asked what Becca's reason is for not liking Nate. So at the time, she was in one of her longest stretches of being sober, and she said that I was abandoning her for some guy when she needed my support the most. And then when I moved out, she tried to make it out like she wouldn't be able to stay sober without me living with her. And Nate basically had to step in and point out that she couldn't stay sober anyway, so to stop guilting me. Someone suggested it's possible she blames OP for her current drinking, and Nate saying he wants to propose triggered her anger for some reason. Everything you say here makes sense to me. Becca has said stuff like this in the past, not specifically about Nate, but sometimes when she starts drinking again, she acts like it's unfair that I'm not getting dragged down with her or doing more to help her. And I think on some level she might still think it's his fault that I moved out and don't keep as close an eye on her as I did back when we lived together. I don't know if she'd really go as far as to lie about something like this just for that reason. I really hope she wouldn't, but I could completely believe that she feels like this. So on Thursday night, after I got everyone's advice, I told Nate that I had found out a way to recover deleted messages from Signal. He immediately took out his phone and opened the app and asked me to show him how to do it. So I already thought that must mean he was telling me the truth, because he didn't panic or hesitate at all. Which was good, because when I tried to download Signal on my old phone, it turned out that it's too old to support the current version of the app, so it wouldn't work. Nate then asked me if we were going to have to go out and buy a new phone for me to believe that he was telling me the truth. And he said that he was willing to do it if that's what it would take. I told Nate it wasn't that I didn't believe him. I just wanted to have some proof, because I just couldn't understand why Becca would lie about it. Nate said that she would lie about it because she's a freaking crazy drunk witch, and there's literally no way for a non-crazy person to understand why she would do anything. And once the messages prove that he didn't ever want me talking to her again. Then he said to get up because if we were going to go to the Verizon store, we had to get there before it closed. By then, I completely believed Nate anyway. So I told him we didn't have to go anywhere or get a new phone, and that I believed him, and I knew he didn't cheat on me and that he would never do that. Nate said that he would hope I know that, and that he didn't understand why I didn't take his word for it in the first place. I started trying to explain why I didn't want to just immediately dismiss what Becca had said happened. But Nate said that he really couldn't listen to that right now. I said that was fair and agreed that I would cut Becca off, but that first I wanted to try to get her to admit that nothing happened. Nate said fine, but to call her with my phone on speaker because he thought he also deserved to hear her admit that she was lying. So I called Becca and I said the same thing to her that I said to Nate, that I figured out how to recover deleted messages on Signal. She asked me why I would need to do that. So that was when I knew for sure that she was definitely making it up and not just confused somehow. I said it was because I wanted to have proof of what she and Nate talked about. Becca asked me if I saw their messages, so I lied and said yes. After that, Becca just went silent until finally I asked her if she was going to say anything. Then she asked me if that meant that we were engaged now. So then, I really just lost it on her and screamed at her, asking her if she was freaking serious and what the frick was wrong with her and how could that possibly be all that she had to say. Becca started screaming back, telling me to freaking calm down and about how obviously I never believed her anyway because it's not like we broke up over it. I was crying by that point, and because of that, I couldn't really say anything else. So then Nate told Becca to go frick herself and to never ever contact either one of us ever again and hung up on her. A minute later, Becca sent me a completely unhinged text that I'm quoting here verbatim, apart from changed names. Courtney, you are supposed to be my friend for life. You are supposed to be there for me. You are supposed to be my person. But then you meet Nate, and now you only care about Nate. Everything is about Nate. Tell me why Nate comes to pick me up when I call you. I called you, not your precious freaking Nate. I only want you to see how fricked up this is, but do you? No. Of course you don't. Of course you choose Nate over me like you always do and like you always will. You pretend to care about me, but I can see you don't care. It is pathetic, Courtney. You are a pathetic woman who would choose a man over a friend. But since you can't say it yourself, I will. Since you have to have your sweet, perfect little baby Nate do it for you, I will. Goodbye, Courtney. Is that what you want? Goodbye forever. I hope you freaking got what you freaking want. There were the 3 dots after that showing she was still typing more. But I blocked her before she sent it. I don't care about anything else that she has to say. I'm sure it's all just going to be more nonsense about why this is my fault, or justifications about why what she did wasn't that bad, and I should forgive her. I know Nate is probably right, and there's no non-crazy logic behind why Becca would stoop to doing something like this, but obviously I've still been thinking about it, and my best guess is that whoever said that Becca still blames me and Nate, apparently mostly Nate, for her being a drunk mess who can't get her life together, is right. It seems like she somehow thought that if she said she hooked up with Nate, I'd break up with him, but still want to be friends with her, and then everything would magically be fixed. As far as stuff with Nate, I asked him if he thought he could ever forgive me for doubting him, and he said that since I came to my senses and I cut Becca off, he guesses we can try to put it behind us. I don't think he's still going to propose anytime soon. After this, I probably wouldn't if I was him. And from what Nate said, he didn't actually do any planning yet, other than asking Becca about rings, and if I'd think a public proposal was tacky or not. All he was doing so far was trying to get ideas without me knowing he was talking to her about it. So just based on that, I think probably it's not going to happen for a while if it still does at all. Also, thanks to everyone for the advice and support. I know I didn't respond to many comments, but I really did appreciate everyone who cared enough to want to help. Now for a few important comments. Commenter: I'm curious if Becca ever said anything to you when she hooked up with guys you liked? Do you think she was blocking you in purpose to keep you for herself? Did she try anything with Nate before you were exclusive? Or was she just drunk and looking for hookups? Then OP replied, I don't think she ever put enough thought into those hookups to be malicious like that. She was just inconsiderate and would go after whoever. Did you ever confront her or just let it go? More than one time seems like a pattern. Then OP replied, we definitely got into arguments about it at the time, but it was mostly just kind of college nonsense and not really an actual confrontation about why she kept doing it, I guess. One last thought from OP. I'm sure she won't just go away. I'm already expecting her to try to get our other friends to get in the middle of everything as soon as she figures out she's actually blocked and I'm not just ignoring her. I hope she won't try to do anything else, but I guess at this point, I really can't know with her. I'm hoping things are okay with Nate. I think in a while they will be. I haven't logged into this account for about a year, but I got a few messages asking for an update. So here it is. I'll keep it as short as I can. Unfortunately, I have nothing good to report. It turned out that whatever was going on with Becca that caused her to make false accusations about Nate was the beginning of some kind of a psychotic break. After I blocked her, she made a whole bunch of fake accounts and started sending me completely unhinged shoot about how I ruined her life and threatening to get revenge on me and Nate. This went on for literally months, with her sending me dozens of messages a day. I found out from other friends that she was making multiple posts on Facebook every day that were semi-coherent rants about how much she hated me and how I was evil and ruined her life intentionally. I tried to talk to the police 2 different times to get a restraining order because I was afraid that Becca was going to show up at our apartment and attack me or Nate. I literally even got a front door camera because I was so scared that she was going to hurt us. The police said that because Becca wasn't threatening actual violence, she was just a nuisance and they couldn't do anything. They acted like I was an idiot because it isn't illegal to talk shoot on Facebook, and they basically told me to just keep blocking her whenever she made a new account, and eventually she'd get bored and move on. Then finally there was an incident where someone broke the windshield of Nate's car while he was parked at his work. I guess it could have just been a random act of vandalism because his wasn't the only car that got windows broken. But at the time, I was 100% sure it was Becca, so I went to the police again. Eventually, an officer went to talk to Becca, and she said she didn't touch Nate's car, and again, I have no proof that she did. But after the police talked to her, Becca got put into a psych ward for a week because apparently her apartment was filthy and she was drunk out of her mind 24/7 and a danger to herself. I have not heard anything from Becca after she left the psych ward. I don't know if she was diagnosed with something or if she's medicated now or what. I found out that she moved in with her dad, who, thank God, lives in a different state. I look at her social media every so often to make sure she's not posting about me again and that she's nowhere around me. I haven't mentioned Nate much in this update because we're no longer together. He broke up with me after the windshield incident because he couldn't handle being constantly harassed by Becca, and to be honest, I don't think he ever forgave me for not taking his side immediately when everything started. It really hurt, but I can't blame him. I tried to talk to him about fixing things between us after Becca was gone, but he just wasn't interested. Am I the idiot for leaving my husband alone with our baby despite his constant complaints and neglect? My husband has no patience with our 4-month-old. We're older parents. I'm 43, and my husband is 55. We've been married for 2 years, and our son wasn't planned. It just happened. At first, he was happy, but once the baby arrived, I realized he was no longer happy. He rarely helps with the baby, claiming he doesn't know how to do anything, despite me showing him simple tasks like changing diapers and putting on clothes. He says it's too hard and never truly tries, so I've been doing it all myself. Our baby had colic and would cry more than usual. My husband hated that and would get very annoyed if our son cried for more than 5 minutes. He would yell at me, do something, get him to shut up, and never once tried to help. I felt so alone during the first few weeks after our son was born. Then my husband began complaining that the baby was taking up all my time, and I had no time for him. Now our son is 4 months old and has started being very clingy, crying every time I put him down. It's been really frustrating because there are times I have to set him down, but I never let him cry for more than 10 minutes. Yesterday, I had to run an errand and left my husband to look after our son. I wasn't gone for long. It was probably 15 minutes after I left when he called me, saying I needed to come back because he couldn't get the baby to stop crying. I told him to try taking the baby outside. Shortly after, I got a notification from the baby monitor and saw our son in his crib crying. I was so frustrated that I turned around and came back home. When I got back, our son was still in his crib crying, and my husband was just sitting on the couch. I was furious and asked him why he left the baby crying for so long. He said, "I couldn't get him to stop. I freaking hate that thing and wish it was never here." His comment surprised and saddened me. I know everyone gets frustrated at times, but I feel like his comment was over the top, and I don't know what to do anymore. Now for the 4-day update. I'm planning an exit strategy that my husband doesn't know about. Even though he apologized for saying he hated our baby and wished it wasn't here, I no longer trust him. Recently, he has been trying to make amends, but I'm still uncertain about my feelings towards him. This morning, I woke up later than usual and found that both he and my son were gone. He had taken our son for a walk without informing me, which made me panic and almost call the police. They returned just before I did. I told him not to go anywhere with our son because I no longer trust him. He insisted he would never harm his son and that his comment was made out of frustration. He felt I was overreacting and was hurt that I viewed him as a terrible person. I told him only a terrible person would say they hated their helpless baby and wished they weren't here. Despite his efforts to help more by changing diapers and feeding our son, I'm struggling to move past his hurtful comments. He has 4 adult children from a previous marriage, and he has a close relationship with them. From what I've seen, he seems to be a good father. Some people have suggested he might have postpartum depression, but when I brought it up, he dismissed it, saying he just gets irritated when our son cries for too long. He claims he's working on his patience, but I wonder if his age, 55, contributes to his lack of patience with our 4-month-old. I'm in my head a lot. Deep down, I think I know what I need to do to keep my child safe, but another part of me wants to give him another chance. Now for a few comments. When asked if it was a head injury since her husband was a father and had kids before, OUP said, "He's never had a head injury." He mentioned that he doesn't remember his own kids crying as much as our baby does. When asked if her husband had been a hands-on father in the past, OP said, "I've tried to get him to help with our baby, but he keeps saying he doesn't know what to do, despite me showing him." He admitted that he never did anything for his kids. His ex-wife did everything. OOP also commented, "I'm not judging him for expressing frustration. We all get frustrated at some point, but I'm currently at my breaking point. My issue with him is that every single time our son cries for longer than 5 minutes, he yells at me to shut him up or do something now. He doesn't even help or even attempt to. He's only started showing some interest in our son recently because I think he fears I will leave." Now for the new update. I know most people might think I'm crazy for leaving him alone with our son again after he said he freaking hated him and wished he wasn't here. But I thought things had gotten better. He told me to take some time for myself today, but then he texted me while I was out, saying he needed a break. It completely ruined my me time and gave me so much anxiety. I was already uncomfortable leaving them, but he kept reassuring me that everything would be fine. Our baby is going through the clingy phase right now, and I've tried to explain to him that it's normal, but he thinks I'm enabling it by holding him too much. It just feels like things aren't getting better. I don't know if I'm overreacting or if he's right that I'm holding our son too much. I'm just so frustrated right now. Transcript of text messages. He cries every time I put him down. It is all your fault because you hold him all day. When are you coming back home? I need a break. I can't get him to stop crying. You need to come home now. It's almost time for a nap. I think he's just tired. Can you put him in the crib now? I'll be home in an hour. I haven't been gone that long, and you're asking for a break. You literally told me I could go. I asked you more than once if you were okay taking care of him, and you said it was okay. Not if he's crying the entire time. I am not okay with that. You're always complaining. It's so exhausting at the point. Because you're not getting the point, you're making it hard for me. Not if he's crying the entire time. I am not okay with that. You're always complaining. It's so exhausting at the point. Because you're not getting the point. You're making it hard for me. He's crying every time I put him down, and you get mad at me for letting him cry. If you need to get stuff done, then it's okay to put him down and let him cry for a bit. I have no issue with that. You're trying to ruin the little time I have to myself. That's exactly what you're doing. Every time I try to talk to you, you get defensive. It's like you don't want me to say anything because you're not making any sense, and you're trying to pick a fight with me because you have to look after your child. Am I the idiot for threatening divorce after my husband and his friends played the hot tub pee game? Last night, we did a small Friendsgiving at my husband's parents' house who are out of town. It was mainly centered around his boyhood social circle, most of whom still have family that live in the neighborhood. After we got done eating, a few of us decided that it would be nice to relax in the hot tub and look at the lights of the city. We had been in maybe 5 minutes, and my husband said, "Everyone ready?" His two friends gave a thumbs up, and then in succession they each said, "Done." My husband's friend Sachim said done last, and they all started laughing, and the other two said, "Okay, we'll buy the next round." It was an obvious inside joke, so I asked what they meant, and they started laughing and explained the hot tub pee game that they had been playing since they were like 5 years old. I wanted to throw up and asked if they seriously all just peed in the hot tub. My husband said yes, and it's no big deal. I was disgusted, so I got out, took an hour-long shower, and went to sleep in his sister's old bedroom, and decided I didn't want to talk to him until today. Today, I feel like I've calmly approached him and tried to explain how dirty he made me feel, how unsanitary it was, and how, while I appreciate that he has these long-running rituals with his friends, he needs to stop the ones that would make him laugh in middle school and for certain leave me out of them. All he keeps telling me is, "Relax, you are making way too big a deal of this." I am sick of hearing him make excuses for this disgusting and childish behavior. How do I approach him to make him appreciate I need him to never do this again? Now for the top comment. Next time you're on your period, mark his forehead with your blood like Rafiki did Simba to assert dominance. Now for the 4-day update. I posted about this on Friday morning. We spent all day Friday fighting about how not only was it disrespectful, but that he refused to even acknowledge my issues with literally being peed on. Around 10 p.m. I told him that if he said, "You're making way too big a deal of this," one more time, I was going to file for divorce. He said it almost like he was daring me. My mom and I are going to talk to an attorney today. My dad is a partner in his accounting firm, and he thinks that since we are young and don't really have much, the divorce should be very quick and simple. My soon-to-be ex-husband has tried to call God knows how many times to apologize and say he gets it now, but it's way too late for that. It was too late for that when he and his friends did the initial act. I have more self-respect than that. Now for a few comments. Commenter: well, I think it had less to do with the peeing and more to do with dismissing how you felt about it. He kept saying it's not a big deal, but he could have just been apologetic and understanding from the start. When OP was asked if he would have apologized, she said, when I approached him on Friday morning to calmly talk about this, if he would have said, "I'm sorry, that was very rude of us, and I will never do this type of thing ever again, no matter who I'm with," I could have easily gotten past this. Good for you. I do not understand people saying this is an overreaction. The person who is supposed to always have your best interests closest to his heart demonstrated that he doesn't care about your consent. He doesn't care about your boundaries. He doesn't care about your feelings. Like, why stay married to someone who can't even meet the baseline for decency? The only way I would consider staying would be a promise from him to seek therapy individually and as a couple. And he would need to apologize to you in front of those friends and explain to those friends that what they did was not okay and why, and end that dumb, childish game for good, and take a course in boundaries and consent. OP replied, I think if he were to come up with your second paragraph on his own, not guiding him, I might be able to forgive him and cooperate. I also think he should ditch his childhood friends and grow up, but again, I'm not going to lead him to that decision. I'd be careful of anything he says now, though, as he could find this post, see your comment, and just tell you exactly what you want to hear. OP replied, "For sure, he's on Reddit all the time and even listens to Reddit posts on YouTube, but I should have clarified the time for him to do that was Friday. Not now. I'm so over it." Comment info. Have you texted your soon-to-be ex-in-laws to let them know they gotta clean their hot tub? OP replied, "I sent my mother-in-law an email, but I don't think she read that part because she only responded with how heartbroken she is that I am divorcing her son, and she felt like she deserved an explanation. I did my part, warning her about the dirty hot tub, but I don't owe her anything. Not your fault. She's not going to listen and continue to chill in bubbling stale pee. I mean, that is funny that she wants an explanation like woman. Your son and his friends all peed in your hot tub while I was in it. Like, is she's cool with that? She needs to reconsider her bar on hygiene. Ain't your circus and ain't your monkeys anymore," OP replied. "To be fair, I didn't tell her about him peeing on me. I don't ever want to bring that up to anyone unless it's needed in the divorce for me to get spousal maintenance. So unless he told her, which I really doubt, I don't know if she knows the real reason. But like you said, it's not my thing anymore. He can tell her whatever he likes." On spousal maintenance, OP said, "I've supported him through a master's degree. I think state law says I'm entitled to 40% of his salary for half the number of years we were married. It will help me take some time off, get over the divorce, and get on my feet again." Commenter, "How long have you been married for?" OP replied, "Just over 5 years." Another commenter said, "Your husband dodged a bullet there." OP replied, "I truly hope he feels that way. Judging by the 57 texts he sent me just this morning, I don't think he does." Another commenter said, "Lol, are you guys seriously trying to defend this lady's delusional 5-year-old mind? Just say it out loud. I am getting a divorce because my husband peed in a hot tub." OP replied, "I've been saying it to myself for 3 days now, and it sounds more right than ever." Another commenter said, "It's pretty obvious you do not love him, lol. It's cool if you want to bail, but threatening divorce in the middle of an argument is petty as frick." OP replied, "I loved him very much until Friday when he said, 'You're making way too big a deal of this for the 10,000th time.' Then I was over it." Mini comment update. A few hours later, we are meeting with a lawyer in an hour. My mom keeps telling me to document everything as it will turn out better for me, money-wise.